Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor Shishir Basu from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. Today we are going to talk on the module The Role of Women in Polity and Administration during 600 BCE to 1200 CE under the paper Women, Theatre and Fine Arts. In this module, we are to discuss the important female figures from the history in India during 600 BCE to 1200 CE. This period is almost of 1800 years, a long period indeed. The concentration of our discussion will be on the kingdoms of Mahajanapada located in the broad Indo-Gangetic plain. The time and the socio-cultural environment were not conducive for women to come out and participate in politics and administration. But there were some remarkable women who did great work and placed themselves in leadership positions. In this module, the objectives are the following. Identify and present some remarkable women figures during the Buddhist period. We will discuss about Helena, a Greek woman getting married to the Mayura king Chandragupta Maurya. We shall portray the important roles played by the Sanghamitra, Sujata and Gautama Putra Satakarni. The discussion will be on the characters of Malavika as depicted by Kalidasa and Basavadatta, a tale of Gupta period. We will describe the establishment of Lohara Dynasty in Kashmir by Dida, who was a ruler there, and we shall also discuss about the rulers whose kingdoms were on the eastern Ganga. Let us start with the introduction. Mahajanapadas, literally great kingdoms, refers to 16 monarchies and republics that stretched across the Indo-Gangetic plains from modern-day Afghanistan to Bangladesh in the 6th century BCE. Prior to and during the rise of Buddhism in India, these were the place, 16 monarchies. They represented a transition from a semi-nomadic tribal society to an agrarian-based society with a vast network of trade and highly organized political structure. Many of these kingdoms functioned as republics governed by a general assembly and a council of elders led by the elected king council. The Mahajanapadas are the historical context of the Sanskrit epics such as Mahabharata and Ramayana, as well as Puranic literature, the Itihasas. They were also the political and social context in which Buddhism and Jainism emerged and developed. Most of the historical details about the Mahajanapadas are culled from Sanskrit literature. Buddhist and Jain texts refer to the Mahajanapadas only incidentally. Status of women in the Buddhist period. Many evil social practices like the practice of pre-puberty marriages, denial of right of women to education and also to mate selection, etc., were imposed on women during the periods of Brahmanas and Puranas. In the Buddhist period, the position of women improved to some extent. In the religious field, women came to occupy a distinctly superior place. They had their own Sangha, called Bhikshuni Sangha, which provided avenues of cultural activities and social services. They got ample opportunities in public life, however, their economic status remained unchanged. Queen Maya of Sakya was the birth mother of Gautama Buddha, the sage on whose teachings Buddhism was founded, and the sister of Mahapajapati Gautami, the first Buddhist nun ordained by Buddha himself. In Buddhist tradition, Maya died soon after the birth of Buddha, generally said to be 7 days after his birth, and came to life again in a Buddhist heaven, a pattern that is said to be followed in the births of all Buddhas. Thus, Maya did not raise her son, who was instead raised by his maternal aunt Mahapajapati Gautami. Maya would, however, on occasion, descend from heaven to give advice to his son. Sujata. Pali tradition believes that every Buddha was offered milk rice from some maiden just before his enlightenment. For example, Vipassi Buddha accepted the milk rice from daughter of Sudasana Setti. Shikhi Buddha accepted it from daughter of Priyadasi Setti. Vesavu Buddha accepted the milk rice from Siri Bandhana. Kakasandha Buddha accepted the milk rice from Brahmin girl Vajrinda of the village of Suchirinda, Konagama from a Brahmin woman Agasuma, and Kasapa Buddha from his wife Sunanda. Last in the list is Gautama Buddha, who accepted the milk rice from Sujata, separating from the 5 monks with whom Gautama had undertaken several ascetic penances in Uruvela for the enlightenment after having left his 2 gurus, namely Alara Kalama and Udhaka Ramaputta. He sat under a banyan tree called the Ajapala Nigrodha. As he sat and felt that the extreme austerities for the spiritual achievement was not a necessary condition to realize the spiritual goal, the natural human drive for the normal human food once again became operative in him. His desire was, however, fulfilled by a woman named Sujata, who offered him the milk rice. Sujata, a daughter of the landowner of the village Senani near Uruvela, had once pledged that she would offer the milk rice to the spirit of a tree if she gave birth to a son. As her wish was fulfilled, she asked her maid Punna to visit the tree and prepare the place for offering. When Punya visited the place, she saw Gautama sitting under the tree. She then mistook him to be the tree deva and reported the matter to Sujata, who, in a great joy, reached the spot and offered him the milk rice in a golden bowl. Gautama accepted the bowl, walked to the river bank, bathed in the Supati Hita, and then ate the food. This was his only meal after a gap of 49 days. Let us discuss about Helena. The happiest historical love at first sight tale began when Chandragupta, Sandrokotas in Greek history, while riding through the rivulet Jhilam, had secretly seen Helen playing with her handmaidens. Mesmerized with the rare Greek beauty and her charm, Chandragupta fell in love with her almost instantly. Being from humble background, he, however, thought of claiming the hands of Helena by marrying her. Maurya, who was already married to Queen Dhundadhara, confessed his desire to marry Helena and his counselor and advisor Chanakya. The learned man counseled that the only way to seek her was by declaring war against Seleucus, who, after the death of Alexander, seized opportunity and took over the eastern part of Greek Empire, Persia and West India now, and became emperor there. However, This was only possible by conquering North India, which was under the Nanda Empire. Soon, Maurya triumphed in the north, which alarmed Seleucus about the rise of Chandragupta Maurya in North India. Meanwhile, Chandragupta Maurya had expressed his love to Helena by sending messages through carrier pigeons. Helena too was smitten by this ardent suitor from India. Helena got to know through her handmaids that the lover is a Hindu and heathen who doesn't acknowledge the Greek religion or their goddesses. Still, she had formed an image of the Hindu emperor in her mind and loved him immensely. It was during 305 BC when Seleucus's army met with Chandragupta Maurya's in a battle where Seleucus was defeated. As per Chanakya's advice, Chandragupta Maurya then invited the defeated emperor for a meeting. Seleucus was suspicious. Still, he marched for the meeting, and where the victorious offered the Greek king a truce, an alliance for Helena's hand. To allay the feeling of hurt, Seleucus, the Indian emperor, handed him war elephants as a token of gift, and in the Greek king ceded large areas of Afghanistan and other territories to the Indian emperor. Later, when Chandragupta entered the palace of the later kings, Helena was equally delighted to see the man in real with whom she was deeply in love already. Initially, Seleucus was not ready to give his daughter's hand to a heathen, but when Helena insisted, he agreed, and the two married only to live happily ever after. Chandragupta Maurya, India's greatest emperor, thus not only had the ability to unite India, but East and West through his unique bond of love. Sanghamitra. Sanghamitra in Sanskrit was the granddaughter of Emperor Bidusara and daughter of Emperor Ashoka and his wife Vidisha Devi. Together with Mahinda, her brother, she entered an order of Buddhist monks. The two siblings later went to Sri Lanka to spread the teachings of Buddha at the request of King Devanampiya Tissa, who was a contemporary of Ashoka. At first, she landed in Mathagal. The village Mathagal is situated 16 kilometers from current Jaffna town. In the north of Sri Lanka, this was located along the shores of the Indian Ocean. This Buddhist emperor, the village Mathagal is located or situated 16 kilometers away from Jaffna town in the north of Sri Lanka along the shores of Indian Ocean. Buddhist Emperor Samrat Ashoka sent her to Sri Lanka together with several other nuns to start the nun lineage of Bhikshuni at the request of King Tissa to ordain King Anula and other women of Tissa's court at Anuradhapura, who desired to be ordained as nuns after Mahindra converted them to Buddhism. After Sanghamitra's contribution to the propagation of Buddhism in Sri Lanka and her establishing the Bhikshuni Sangha or Meheni Sangha, there her name became synonymous with Buddhist female monastic order of Theravada Buddhism that was established not only in Sri Lanka but also in Burma, China and Thailand in particular. That day, the day when she was ordained, the most revered tree, the Bodhi tree, a sapling of which was brought by her to Sri Lanka and planted in Anuradhapura, and which still survives, is also celebrated every year on the full moon day of December as Udubhapa Poya or Uposthana Poya and Sanghamitra Day by Theravada Buddhists in Sri Lanka. Gautami Putra Satakarni is also known as Shalivahana, was the 23rd ruler of the Satavahana Empire. Satavahana dominated the Deccan region from 1st century BCE to 3rd century CE. The dynasty reached its zenith under the rule of Gautami Putra Satakarni and his successor Vasishta Putra Pulamavi. The kingdom fragmented into smaller states in the early 3rd century CE. Gautamiputra Satakarni bears a name which has made some historians entertain a theory regarding matriarchy along the Satavahanas. He is called Gautamiputra even as there is another ruler called Vasishtaputri, Sri Pulamai, and yet another Kausaki Putra Satakarni, and these mean Satakarni, son of Gautami. Sri Pulamai, son of Vashishti, and Satakarni, son of Kaushiki, and in these cases, Gautami, Vashishti, and Kaushiki were the names of the mothers of these rulers respectively. This justifies the valuable position of a mother in the political affairs. The king was carrying her mother's name. One of the interesting facts which is worth mentioning here is about their name. They prefix their mother's names to theirs. It seems to mean to these historians that they derive themselves in the female line and not in the male line, thereby suggesting matriarchy. This is not acceptable, for there is no other evidence to support such as radical conclusion, and even in Kerala, matriarchy came in much later, certainly not before a few centuries, Sangam age. The real explanation for this king of matrimony seems to be that since the rulers married a number of wives from different royal families, a prince was best identified with reference to his mother. This practice is found reflected in the system adopted in the colophons to the Padri Rupattu, a Tamil Sangham anthology in which early Chera genealogy is mentioned. Gautamiputra was very charitable, and there is a record which mentions his gift of a piece of land which had originally belonged to one of the Ushabhadatta, Vasishtaputra, Sri Pulamai. Malavika. The text written by Kalidasa, Malavikagni-mitra, gives us the names of three of his queens, Dharini, Iravati, and Malavika, a princess of Vidarbha. The play tells the story of the love of Agnimitra, the Shunga emperor at Vidisha, for the beautiful handmaiden of his chief queen. He falls in love with the picture of an exiled servant girl named Malavika. He must resort to the help of this gesture and play a game of subterfuge merely to look at the new girl. When the queen discovers her husband's passion for the girl, she becomes infuriated and Malavika was imprisoned. But as fate would have it, in the end, she is discovered to be of royal birth and is accepted as one of the queens of the king. In a struggle of supremacy during the 5th century BCE, the growing state of Magadha emerged as the most predominant power in ancient India, annexing several of the Janapadas. They were all eventually absorbed into the Maurya Empire after 321 BCE. Vasavadatta is a Gupta period romantic akhaika or tale, written in an ornate style of language that was in fashion at the height of classical Sanskrit literature. His author is Shubhandhu, a courtier of Kumaragupta who ruled from 414 to 455 CE, and his son Skandagupta, who ruled from 455 to 467 CE. The plot of the drama is drawn from the romantic narratives about the Vatsa king Udayana and Vasavadatta, the daughter of Prayadutta, the ruler of Avanti, which were current in the poet's time and which seem to have captivated popular imagination. The main theme of the drama is the sorrow of Udayana for his queen Vasavadatta, believed by him to have perished in a fire, which was actually a rumor spoken by a minister of Udayana to compel his king to marry Padmavati, the daughter of the king of Magadha. Kumara Devi. Chandragupta I is the son of Ghatotkach and the grandson of Srigupta. Unlike his predecessors, who were known as Maharaja, king, he became to be known as Maharajadhiraj, king of kings. He came to power in 340 AD. However, it seems unknown how he expanded small patriarchy to the status of an important kingdom by annexing neighboring kingdoms. He also married a Lichavi princess, Kumaradevi, indicating that the matrimonial connection between the two led to the political greatness of the Gupta dynasty. Padmavati was a 4th century regent of the Western Indian Vakataka dynasty. Padmavati was the daughter of a Naga dynasty princess from northern India who had been made a consort of the Gupta emperor Chandragupta II when the Naga lands were overrun by Gupta soldiers. Recognized as an heir of Chandragupta, Padmavati was married to the Vakataka king as a diplomatic gift. When the Vakataka king died shortly after wedding, Padmavati took the reins of government and ruled for 20 years, allying the Vakataka state closely with Gupta interests. Dida. The Lohara Dynasty was the Hindu rulers of Kashmir between 1003 and approximately to 1320. The early history of the dynasty was described in the Raja Tarangini, Chronicle of Kings, a work written by Kalahana in the mid-12th century, and upon which many and perhaps all studies of the first 150 years of the dynasty depend. Subsequent accounts, which provide information up to and beyond the end of the dynasty, came from Jona Raja and Srivara. The later rulers of the dynasty were weak, internecine fighting and corruption was endemic during this period, with only brief years of respite, and this gave rise to the growth of Islamic supremacy in the region. Dida was ruler of Kashmir from 958 CE to 1003 CE, first as a regent for her son and various grandsons, and thereafter as sole ruler in her own right. Most knowledge relating to her is obtained from Raja Tarangini, a work written by Kalahana in the 12th century. Dida was a daughter of Simharaja, the king of Lohara, and a granddaughter of Bhima Sahi, one of the Hindu Sahi of Kabul. Lohara lay in the Pir Panjal range of mountains on a trade route between western Punjab and Kashmir. She married the king of Kashmir, Sanghamitra, thus uniting the kingdom of Lohara with that of her husband. When Sanghamitra died following a fever contracted after a hunt, in 958, he was succeeded by his son Abhimanyu II. As Abhimanyu was still a child, Dida acted as regent and effectively exercised sole power. Compared to other societies of the period, women in Kashmir were held in high regard. Even period to becoming regent, Dida had considerable influence in state affairs, and coins have been found which appear to show both her name and that of Chandragupta. With Rudrama Devi of the Kakatiya dynasty, she is one of the very few queens in Indian history. His first task was to rid himself of troublesome ministers and nobles, who she drove from office only to have them rebel against her. The situation was tense and she came close to losing control, but having asserted her position with support from others, including some whom she bribed, Dida played a ruthlessness in executing not only the rebels who had been captured, but also their families. Further trouble erupted in 972 when Abhimanyu died. He was succeeded by his son Nandigupta, still a young child himself, and this caused relentless among the Damaras, who were feudatory landlords, and later to cause huge problems for Lohara Dynasty, which Dida founded. In 973, she deposed of Nandigupta in staying phase and then did the same to Tiruvanagupta, his younger brother, in 975. This left her youngest grandson, Bhimagupta, on the throne, again with Dida as regent. Her desire for absolute power became untrammeled, especially after the death of Falugna, a counsellor who had been prime minister of her husband before being exiled by Dida after Shemagupta's death, and then brought back into her fold when his skills were required. She also took a lover called Tunga at the time, and although he was a mere headsman, this provided her with a sense of security sufficient that in 980 she arranged for Bhimagupta to be tortured to death and assumed unfettered control for herself, with Tunga as her prime minister. Although there remained some discontent among the Damaras, Dida and Tunga were able to resolve the issues by force and by diplomacy, causing Stein to comment that the statement like instinct and political ability which we must ascribe to Dida, in spite of all her defects in character, are attested by the fact that she remained to the last in peaceful possession of Kashmir throne and was able to bequeath it to her family in undisputed possession. She adopted a nephew, Sangram Raja, to be her heir in Kashmir and left the rule of Lohara and Bigraha Raja, who was earlier another nephew or perhaps one of her brothers. From this decision arose the Lohara Dynasty of Kashmir, although Bigraha Raja even during her lifetime made attempts to assert his right to that area as well as Lohara. The Eastern Ganga dynasty reigned from Kalinga, and their rule consisted of the whole of the modern-day Indian state of Orissa as well as part of West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh and Chhattisgarh from the 11th century to the early 15th century. Their capital was known by the name Kalinganagar, which is the modern Sri Mukhalingam in Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh bordering Orissa. Today, they are most remembered as the builder of the Konark Sun Temple an UNESCO World Heritage Site at Konark, Orissa. The dynasty was founded by King Ananta Burman, Chora Ganga, descendants of the Western Ganga dynasty that ruled southern part of modern Karnataka state from the 4th century to the end of 10th century and Chola dynasty. The Eastern Ganga rulers who lived and who have hailed from southern India, who were matrimonially related to Chola Empire and Eastern Chalukyas, naturally carried South Indian culture to Orissa, which is very well reflected in the currency. The currency was called Ganga Phanmas and was greatly influenced by the Chola Empire and Eastern Chalukyas of South India. Ananta Burman was a religious person as well as a patron of art and literature. He is credited for having built the famous Jagannath temple of Puri in Orissa. King Anantaraman Choraganga Deva was succeeded by a long line of illustrious rulers such as Narasimha Deva. The rulers of Eastern Ganga dynasty defended their kingdom from the constant attack of the Muslim rulers. This kingdom prospered through trade and commerce, and the wealth was mostly used in the construction of temples. The rule of the dynasty came to an end with the reign of King Bhanudeva in the early 15th century CE. The above historical evidences help us to draw a line which shows a small contribution of women in administration and polity of India. The present subject needs to be studied more. This should be mentioned here that after 600 CE to 1200 CE was the transitional phase of Indian history. We don't find any strong ruler during this time who ruled continuously. We can't expect women as rulers in this regard. Although we have some exceptions here, this puts as an example of Dida. We should not forget that it is the transitional phase of ancient history. The entire territory was politically disturbed. No political power was dominated. The small states were struggling for the expansion of their states. Triparty struggle was in vogue among Gujars, Pala, and Pritharas in order to capture Kannauj. After Harsha, it was found to be the capital of India. South Indian states like Chola was interacting with South India and Southeast Asia for the expansion of their art, culture, and trade. Therefore, no artistic and qualitative work was going on. Even in literature, no texts were written. Only the commentary was coming into the existence. In this situation, women were confined to their boundaries. They didn't prefer to come outside. We have rarest evidences of women participating in any of these activities. So the students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. In this module, we have discussed about the prominent female figures who were in politics and administration during 600 BCE and 1200 CE, a period of 1800 years. During this period, the politico-cultural environment was not conducive for women to be in politics and in administration. Hence, some remarkable women came forward and a few of them reached the zenith of the power structure and ruled there. During Buddhist period, we have the examples of Maya, the first Buddhist nun ordained by Buddha himself. This was unprecedented and unthinkable during that time. Sujata was a figure that is talked of any Buddhist literature. Sujata was the one who offered the milk rice to Buddha. After consuming it, Buddha regained his physical energy to continue his progress in the path of enlightenment. We have had discussion about some more prominent female figures such as Sanghamitra and Gautama Putra Satakarni. There were some figures which got prominence in literature written by Kalidasa, such as Malavika Mitra and Basavadatta, a tale produced during Gupta period. The Greek female figure who got married with Maurya king Helena was also prominent. The love story of Helena and Mayura and acceptance of the same was a path-breaking incident. Dida was a female character who was able to establish Lohara Dynasty in Kashmir, again something new and unprecedented. This Lohara period of Dida's achievement was well depicted in Rajatarangini. It is hoped that these incidents and remarkable figures will inspire you and help you to investigate further and read further to increase your knowledge. Thank you for being with us.